Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for His Royal Highness the Crown Prince.
Your Royal Highness, esteemed Laureate, Minister, Mayor, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2026 Abel Prize ceremony here in the University Aula in Oslo. We are surrounded by some of Edvard Munch's world-renowned paintings. They are telling us the story of the university and the sciences. This is the home of the Abel Prize. Opening the ceremony today, we heard Eine Hommage an Gerd by Peter Baden, a fantasy on music from Norway and Germany, written especially for this year's laureate. He has been central in establishing the city of Bonn as a center for mathematical excellence. And Bonn is also the city that gave us Beethoven, and so we could hear echoes of Beethoven's symphony in this tribute. And here in Norway, we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of Edvard Grieg's music to Henrik Ibsen's Peer Gynt. And I'm sure many of you recognized Solveig's song, and In the Hall of the Mountain King, I Dovregubbens hall. The Abel Prize was established by the Norwegian government in 2002 and is awarded by the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Research. Today, we honor the 2026 Abel Prize laureate and his extraordinary scientific work in the field of mathematics. So please welcome President of the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters, Professor Annelin Eriksen.
Your Royal Highness, Abel Laureate, Minister, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. The Abel Prize is named after the most famous Norwegian mathematician, Niels Henrik Abel, and recognizes pioneering and groundbreaking scientific achievements in mathematics. The Abel Prize recognizes these achievements not necessarily for their applicability, but for the fundamental insights they bring. These insights have an intrinsic value because they reveal the nature of the mathematical world. They reveal what is hidden for most of us. They reveal eternal truths that future generations can build on, just like this year's laureate, Professor Gerd Faltings, worked on insights and questions initiated almost 2,000 years ago by the Greek mathematician Diophantine. In a world where nothing seems stable, where the truth is politicized, the world of mathematics, of number theory, of Diophantine equations, show us something that is shared. Mathematics is a universal language. This also tells us something about the nature of basic research. Valuing basic research entails valuing knowledge, not as a tool for something, but for itself. When Abel discoveries 200 years ago were valued and celebrated for their brilliance and beauty, there were no practical applications. Today, however, several of his discoveries lay the foundation for what we all do every time we turn on our computers. History has shown us time and again that the deepest breakthroughs come from curiosity-driven inquiry. When researchers are free to explore fundamental questions, they lay the groundwork for advances we cannot yet imagine. Basic research expands the boundaries of knowledge, and applications might or might not follow, and sometimes they follow decades later. Mathematics underpins all of modern technologies, from simulations of industrial processes to cryptography and data science. Supporting basic research is an act of trust in human curiosity and creativity. It ensures that future generations inherit not only solutions, but entirely new ways of thinking. The Abel Prize has a dual purpose. In addition to celebrating the highest achievements in mathematics, it supports multiple activities to stimulate the interest in mathematics among children and youth. This sets the Abel Prize apart from other international prizes. Today, we celebrate someone who has given us an invaluable gift. Professor Gerd Faltings has given us insights that expand our mathematical understanding. Today, we give him something in return. The Abel Prize values the invaluable, the fundamental insights into the hidden mysteries of mathematics. Thank you.
We heard Rune Tonsgaard Sørensen's Shine You No More, inspired by Scandinavian folk songs. And performing it was Birk Bostrup Blyverke, Harry Lie, Johannes Lioden, og Peder Kjerkreit, all students from Young Talents Barrat Due. And the Abel Prize is a strong supporter of young mathematical talent. And as President Eriksen mentioned, children and young people are really at the heart of the Abel Prize mission to inspire a lasting interest in mathematics. The Abel Prize is awarded based on a recommendation from the Abel Prize Committee. And this committee consists of prominent researchers in the field of mathematics. Please welcome Chair of the Abel Prize Committee, Professor Helge Holden. So, Professor Holden, this year it's all about Diophantine equations. Tell me more, what is a Diophantine equation?
So, when you try to solve an equation to compute the interest on a loan or the time it takes to charge your car battery, you get the decimal number as an answer. But you round it off to an integer, say the kroner, amount of kroner, or the minute it takes. And equations where integers or rational numbers are solutions are Diophantine equations.
Could you give me a simple example?
Yes, let's take one example being this room. Fire regulations give a maximum number of seats that can be in this room. But it doesn't specify the number of rows and the seats in each row. And to solve this, find the optimal solution for this, is solving a Diophantine equation. Another example is if you want to buy something and pay with exact change. You have a 1 kroner coin, you have a 10 kroner coin, you may have a 50 kroner bill, and you have to find the right combination to add up to the exact amount you have to pay. In order to do that, you have to solve a Diophantine equations. And if you have, say, 5 kroners and 10 kroners, and the amount you have to pay is 17, you cannot do it. So this Diophantine equation has no solutions.
Now it sounds a bit too easy. Almost.
Yeah, I'm afraid you don't get the Abel Prize for paying with the exact change.
So, does this have any practical significance today?
Yes, Diophantine equations are at the foundation of everything we do when we have transactions on the internet and want to make them safe. So the more we know about Diophantine equations, the safer the transactions we do on the internet can be. And we want to avoid people to break the codes, so we want to know as much as possible about Diophantine equations.
Thank you. And in a moment, Professor Helge Holden will explain the decision of the Abel Prize Committee. But first, let's get to know this year's laureate a little bit better.
I guess the purpose of my life is to do well in mathematics. I liked it because the answers are definitely true or wrong, not like in other fields like literature where you can have this opinion or that opinion. I was born in Gelsenkirchen, which is in the German Rust Belt, and my father was a physicist and my mother a chemist. Later I moved out, I studied in Münster. I was a good student and I did my first research in Münster. I had a teacher, Nastold, who was very nice. Nastold knew somebody in Paris, Spiro, who had some ideas about the model conjecture. I learned from him and I thought some things were missing in his approach. I got a job in Wuppertal and I must be thankful for the university there that they had so much trust in me. And then I worked on this. Spiro had the so-called Kodaira-Spencer class, which didn't exist. After some time, you see clearly, I invented a new tool, the so-called the Galois representation, and this did the job. Overnight, I became a star in the profession. Mathematics, usually there are no eureka moments. You often think you have solved something, and then if you check it, you find that you have overlooked something. So in this sense, you only know after some time that it might have been an eureka moment. I mean, these days, if you look back, you can see clearly what makes the difference. At that time, I guess, it wasn't so clear to me. There was the option to go to the US. It was a happy time for me, and I got married, and soon I got my first daughter, and then my second, and also got the Fields Medal. So it was everything at once. I like music, although I have no talent for it. But I like to go to the opera. And I like to do gardening because there I don't have to use my brain, but only muscle. Of course, after Modell, it's not yet time to retire. For each problem you solve, you get two new ones. In the Modell proof, they were sort of handmade solutions, as we say. And I worked on these fields trying to find better and more systematic proofs. And I got some success. It was also a good feeling that after Modell you could still achieve things. The Abel Prize shows that people appreciate me. I'm proud of my proof of Modell, but I feel good because I'm appreciated by the Abel Prize.
Gerd Faltings, he's an outstanding mathematician, towering figure in mathematics really, and a very nice colleague.
Ja, ich denke über die Berliner Formel, der Mikey.
Ach, hat dich Mikey wieder drauf angesetzt?
Ja.
He did some monumental work in the field of arithmetic geometry, Diophantine equations, in particular by proving his maybe most famous theorems, the Modell conjecture, and went on to do really influential work, in particular in P-Hodge theory and other subjects that have also influenced my own work enormously.
It's very well done, I'm impressed. I'm working on a variant of the Berliner formula. I'm getting somewhere, but for the moment I'm stuck. If you get around something, you are happy for 2 days and then you are stuck again. The things I could do, I've done, and I'm only left with the things I can't do, and I have no idea what to do. And the young guys shouldn't follow me, but should do something else.
For a program or homology?
You always have to look for topics which are interesting and which you probably can have an impact.
For the side of homology, it's considered by Zheng and...
If you start something new, of course you first find walls where you bang your head against, but at some time you learn how the wall is shaped and then you try to get around it. And and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. If you are too realistic, then you know that you would fail. You always have to think this is a good chance you can do something, to be an optimist.
Your Royal Highness, Abel Laureate, ladies and gentlemen. Equations are at the heart of mathematics. Indeed, we encounter them in everyday life. We use equations to compute travel times, taxes, to calculate loans and interest rates, and the list goes on. We are, however, here interested in equations where natural numbers, that is, the positive integers 1, 2, 3, etc., or possible rational numbers, that is, fractions, are solutions. These equations are called Diophantine equations, named after the Greek mathematician Diophantus. Natural numbers are the most fundamental objects we have. In the words of the German mathematician Leopold Kronecker, die ganzen Zahlen hat der liebe Gott gemacht, alles andere ist Menschenwerk. where God made the natural numbers, all else is the work of man. We have already heard 2 examples of Diophantine equations. Yet another example is the use of Lego bricks. If I'm tasked with constructing a given shape with Lego bricks, there are many ways to go about it, but all share this factor. I have to use an integer number of bricks, thus a Diophantine equation. While opinions may differ about the importance of Lego bricks, for modern society, the use of Diophantine equations for cryptography and security is absolutely essential. This preserves, for instance, the safety on online transactions and the use of biometric identification. The solution of Diophantine equations is the focus of this year's Abel Prize. Consider the example of the length of the sides in a right triangle. According to Pythagoras' theorem, the square of the length of the hypotenuse equals the sum of the squares of the 2 other sides. There are many, indeed infinitely many, integer solutions to this equation, say 3, 4, and 5, since 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 25, as does 5 squared. However, if you increase the power to 3 and look for solutions, you can prove that there are no integer solutions. In 1922, the British-American mathematician Louise Mordell boldly conjectured that for a vast class of Diophantine equations, more precisely those of genus higher than 2, there could only be a finite number of solutions, be that 1, 2, 27, a billion, or indeed 0. That is, no solutions, but it could never have infinitely many. The difference between, say, a billion or infinitely many may sound immaterial, but for mathematicians, the distinction is immense. The problem remained open for decades, not because mathematicians didn't try, but because it was intrinsically very hard. In the early 1980s, the young and fearless Gerd Faltings decided to investigate the problem. It was then a sensation when, in 1983, he succeeded in solving it, showing that the conjecture of Mordell was correct. Thus, Mordell's conjecture turned into Faltings' theorem, which states that there are finitely many rational solutions to this vast class of equations. Faltings' proof came as a big surprise to experts, first from the fact that it could be proved, and second from the method used, showing a special case of the Tate conjecture, devised by John Tate, the 2010 Abel Laureate, as well as the Shafarevich conjecture on his approach to proving the Mordell conjecture. Around 10 years later, Andrew Wiles, the 2016 Abel Laureate, subsequently showed that the Fermat equation x to the n plus y to the n equals z to the n had 0 solutions for n greater than or equal to 4. These equations constitute a special case of the equations conjectured by Mordell. Thus, while we knew that the Fermat equation could only have finitely many solutions from Faltings' theorem, Wiles showed that indeed there were no solutions at all. Shortly after Faltings proved Mordell's conjecture, Paul Wojta found another proof. In 1991, Faltings adapted this proof to show a vast generalization of the Mordell conjecture, namely the Mordell-Lang conjecture on subvarieties of abelian varieties. I make a small digression here and direct your attention to the word I just innocently used, namely abelian. This adjective is, of course, named after Niels Henrik Abel, as he, together with Évariste Galois, laid the foundation of what is now called mathematical group theory. And here, both abelian and the opposite, non-abelian, are central concepts. And it has reached the ultimate level of acceptance in the mathematical community, as it's written with a lowercase a. Before I end up sounding too chauvinistic, I should add that it is, of course, an advantage that Abel's name is short and easy to pronounce in any language. But let me now return to our main focus. To prove the Mordell-Lang conjecture, Faltings established a Diophantine approximation result known as Faltings' product theorem. Indeed, Faltings has made multiple fundamental contributions to several areas of mathematics. Let it suffice here to mention briefly his major contributions to periodic Hodge theory, giving proofs of the main conjectures formulated by Tate and Fontaine, and extending its scope to non-abelian setting under the name of p-adic Simpson correspondence. Gerd Faltings is a towering figure in arithmetic geometry. His ideas and results have reshaped the field, settling major long-standing conjectures while also establishing new frameworks that have guided decades of subsequent research. His exceptional achievement unite geometric and arithmetic perspectives and exemplify the power of deep structural insight. It thus gives us great pleasure and honor to award the 2026 Abel Prize to Gerd Faltings. I would now like to ask Gerd Faltings to come on stage. I now invite His Royal Highness the Crown Prince to present the 2026 Abel Prize to Gerd Faltings.
Your Royal Highness, Minister, Major, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. So I have to read this to get the right title. I was very much honored to get the Abel Prize. I've now, at the beginning of my career and at the end, I've gotten the two highest honors in mathematics, and they make nice cornerstones of my career. When I started in mathematics, I didn't think about prizes like, well, there was only the Fields Medal, no Abel Prize, and I just wanted to get a position where I could make a living from mathematics. So I've come a long way. The Abel Prize shows Norway's big regard for science. Well, Norway has, for most of the time, has been ruled by foreign kings, and so the national heroes did not work by the sword, but by the pen. And in mathematics, there's of course Abel, but there's also Lie and Seelberg, which left their mark. We Germans have a bad reputation because we did many bad things, but Abel had a good time in Berlin. He published things in the Krelle journal, which gave this journal a tremendous start. And his famous memoir was lost by somebody else. In my work of model, I used abelian varieties. So abelian varieties were a hot topic in the time when Abel studied them. Started with elliptic curves, which have also group structure, and which is, well, this was also part of the theorem of Model, not the conjecture. And more complicated curves, there's also a group, but the groups are called abelian varieties, and they have higher dimension, and they play an important role in my mathematics and mathematics in general, and it's a basic tool. It's like a train line. Maybe in the beginning it's an adventure to build it, but once it's built, you just take the train and worry whether it may be late, but use it as a tool. I had the good luck to be present at the inauguration of the Abel Prize. This was in the year 2002, for the bicentennial. There was a conference, and I was on the scientific committee. It was a very pleasant committee because there was a chairman, Laureate, who did all the work, and we only had to say from time to time, we fully agree with what you do, what you propose. And so I thought I should do some work for this committee, and I read Stupauk's book on Abel And so I learned a lot about Norway at this time. And also, we had a pilgrimage afterwards to Abel's birthplace at Froland, and it was very nice, so I understood lots about Norway. Abel had a teacher, Holden, and also had a teacher, Lastold, at Münster, who was a very nice professor. And I remember I gave a talk on algebraic geometry, and I attended it, and soon I was the only listener. But so I got good advice from him. One advice was to read Grothendieck, which at that time, well, he was very active, but some people didn't like him. But I liked him because somebody said his work was locally trivial, which meant that, there were lots of sentences, but each of them I thought, well, that's clear. What does he make such a fuss? But then at the end he had proven a big theorem, and so I was very impressed. Well, I had some contact with Grothendieck, but this was later. And my teacher also had a friend, Biro, in Paris, who had ideas about the Model conjecture. And I found them interesting. I thought, well, yeah, as a young guy, you always have to find a topic to work on, and you want something which is interesting and which is not too crowded. And so I thought about ideas of Model. I could work on it. I would get something interesting, maybe not prove it, but I mean, as a mathematician, you are satisfied if you get some results. But then there was a surprise. I managed to prove it, and then I became a star of the field overnight. And then I mean, there was much excitement in Germany, but I decided I wanted to go to the US, and I went to Princeton, which is a small town, but I liked it, and there I had a very good time. I got married before, I got my 2 daughters, and also I got the Fields Medal, so it was raining manna from heaven. And then, but after 10 years I decided I wanted my daughters to be German, and so I came back to Germany, and I got at the Max Planck Institute in Bonn, which was founded by Professor Gerd. And I mention him because in 2002 at the bicentennial, you also got an honorary degree. So I profited from my work, and I had a much better time than Abel. Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh
Maria in den Bergen, in the mountains, from the operetta The Chardas Princess. We heard Andrea Bundgaard on the piano, musical director and percussionist Peter Baden, and the wonderful Cecilia Katrine Ødegården. Now, please welcome back President of the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters, Professor Annelin Eriksen.
I would like to extend my warmest congratulations to Professor Gerd Faltings, Abel Laureate 2026. Your scientific contribution to the field of mathematics is of great value to us. We appreciate your presence here today and are grateful for being able to celebrate together with you. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank everyone who has contributed to the continued success of the Abel Prize. The International Mathematical Union, the European Mathematical Society, the Heidelberg Laureate Forum, the Abel Prize Committee, the Abel Board, and the mathematical community, which have contributed to establishing a highly recognized international prize in mathematics. To the chair of the Abel Board, Professor Ingrid Glad, my warmest thanks for your dedicated work during the last 4 years. I also want to thank the chair of the Abel Prize Committee, Professor Helge Holden. You have been formative since the very beginning of the Abel Prize, and you have ensured its success. Let me end by congratulating again the 2026 Abel Laureate, Professor Gerd Faltings.